As the lion in our Tiergarten remembers the nenuphars of his Nile, shall Arius forget Arion, or Bogus the bear-gams of the Marmarazals from Marminier? It may be, tot Sversens Fulleneggen and Twentig have sigil posted what in our breathing bust, that the besieged bedreamt him still, and solely of those lilyless undevealed which had undone him, gun for eye, and knew not the watchful creatures at his wake, and theirs to stay. Fui fui, shame missies. CP soapy Larsen lads. Zain zain, zain zain. It may be, we most ons haste themselves to declare it, that he reglimmed, pre-saw, the fields of heat and yields of wheat, where corn gold is it, shamed and shown. It may be, we haben to upseek a biddy, door our good townships corons want we knew it, that with his deep-seeing insight, had not wishing oft been but good time wasted, petrified within his patriarchal Shemana, broad stain both city, 'twill be, he, conscious of enemies, a king-billy white-horsed in a Finglas mill, prayed as he sat on anxious seat. Can't he not give me to bow to peer soft eyeballs? During that 3.5 hours agony of silence, ex profundis malorum, with unfeigned charity, that his auxterior word wounder, and angles to the teeth, who, Norman Nash of Gyrahash, would go any old where in the weeping world on his mottled belly, the rab, the creepon's need, for milk, music, or married mistresses, might, mercy to providential benevolences, who hates prudency's astuteness, unfold into the first of a distinguished dynasty of his posteriors, black-faced conmaras not of the fold, but elder children of his household, his most besetting of ideas, Pace his 12 predominant passions, being the formation, as in more favored climes, where the meadow of honey is guest-friendly and the mountain of joy receives, of a truly criminal stratum, Ham's crib-cracking yeggs, thereby at last eliminating from the oppidump much desultory delinquency from all classes and masses with directly derivative decasualization. Sigarius, sic, vindicat urbes terrorum, sicker. And so, to Markelank tal Sjarter, the obedience of the citizens help the health of the owl. Now, Goat, let us leave theories there and return to here's here. Now here. 'Tis Goat again. The teak coffin, pew-glass panel fitted, feeds to the east, was to turn in handy later, and piddly-paddly near the porpoise, materially affecting the cause. And this lever is the thing how. Any number of conservative public bodies, through a number of select and other committees having power to add to their number, before voting themselves and himself, town, port, and garrison, by a fit and proper resolution, following a court's order of the ground-wet, once for all out of plotty existence, as a force cut, so you made a skippy might to your cotton runner on a new pack of clarets, made him, while his body still persisted, their present of a pro-tem grave in Moyalta of the best Loch Nee pattern, then as much in demand among Mysonesans as the Isle of Man today among limniphobes. Wacht even. It was in a fairly fishy cattle carry, after the Fianna's foreman had taken his handful, enriched with ancient woods and dear duchy deeplins, mid which were an old moll and a troutback, Vainy Vane of her osier, and a chatty Sally with any will torwald who would ongle her as Isaac did to the tickle of his rod and watch her waters off, her sillying waters off. And there now, brown Peter Everripple, may their quilt gild lightly over his somnolutent form, who for you lies his last, by the wrath of bog, like the erst-cursed Hun in the bed of his Troy bleu Donau hue. Best. This was to have been underground heaven, or mole's paradise, which was probably also an inversion of a fellow pharaohs intended to foster wheat crops and to ginger up the tourist trade. Its architect, Monseigneur Perlachasse, having been obcecated lest he should petrifake such an ever, while the contractors, Messrs. T.A. Burkitts and L.O. Tourholes, were made invulnerably venerable. First in the west, our Mr. Builder, Castle Villainous, openly damned and blasted by means of a hydromine, System Sowen and Beltany, exploded from a reinvented TNT bombing post up a hoy of 1,132 wing rests, Surciter, to sternboard out of his aerial torpedo, Auton Dynamon, contacted with the expectant minefield by tins of improved ammonia, lashed to her shield-plated gunwale and fused into trip-up cables, slipping through tholes and playing down from the conning tower into the ground battery fuse boxes, all differing as clocks from keys, since nobody appeared to have the same time of beard. Some saying by their orlog it was 6 strigs to 9, more holding with the Ryan Vogt it was Dane to 5. He afterwards, whenever his blather began to fail of him, and his rough bark was wholly husky, and, stoop by stoop, he neared it, woodman spare, carefully lined the ferro-concrete result with rot-proof bricks and mortar, fast to Fost, and retired beneath the heptarchy of his towerets, the Beauchamp, Byward, Bell, and Lion, the White, the Wardrobe, and Bloodied. So encouraging, insteppen, all Sal's heads believed, additional useful counsels public, with hoofed off-dealings which were well holden of ladykins throughout, such as the Breeders' Union, the Guild of Merchants of the Staple at AUC, to present unto him with funeral pomp, over and above that a stone slab, with the usual Macpila address of valediction, a very fair-worded instance of false meaning etymology. We have done ours, go health with you, here whippet, overgiven it, skidoo. But house and all aboard troops, show coffins, winding sheets, cinerary urns, lie-aloud brasses, snuff chests, poteen tubs, goodbye beer chips, lacrimal vases, houden doses, reek-water backers, break middles, zoot sacks for eat-lust, including up-your-healthing rook-wurst and meat-ewer softened fork and pootsies, and for that matter, Jabil also, any kind of inhumationary bric-a-brac for the adornment of his glass-stone honofrium wood, met these train of conditions, naturally follow, alas, in the ordinary course, enabling that round the world a wanderling's wight, did such as pass him, to live all safe at homely the pre-senile days of his life of opulence, ancient ere decrepitude, late land's last lenience till stuffering stage, wailing away the whole of the while, leith lulled, hypnos chilia eonon, between explosion and re-explosion, donovateur, thunder, from gross-cop to megapod, embalmed, of grand age, rich in death anticipated. But a bite-sized summon serving, rise after fall, blue blitz bolted from Sideria, buried burrowing in Gehinnon, there, knowing the hinge-worms of the hallmarks of habitationlessness, to proliferate through all his underwealth, seam by seam, sheol sheol, and revisit our upper crust of utilitarios, the divine one, the hoarder hidden, propagating his plutor-popular progenium of pots and pans and pokers and puns from Biddenland to Bortonland, the spare way for the spur way. The other spring offensive on the Heights of Abraham may have come about all quite by accident. Vater unser, for Breeder Bruder had at length persuaded him to have himself to be acceptably buried as the murdered Cian in Fintown, had not been 3 monads in his watery grave, but vigilantes and ridings then, and spoilt wine pledges with Ardapple frittling, when putrefaction, dry-foosed as ever, began to ramp, the boys are parching. A Hooden Winkle gave the signal, and a blessing paper freed the flood. Why did the patrician make him scarce with his gruntons? Because the Droiven were muscating at the door. From both Celtiberian camps, granting at the onset for the sake of argument that the men on the 2 sides, in New South Ireland and Bertira Ulat, Bloomin and Pillfaces, during the ferment with the Pope or on the Pope, had, more or less, grand ideas, granted. All conditions, poor cons and divers more, each, of course, on the purely defensive, since the Eternals were always on their side every time, were drawn towards their Bellona's black bottom, once wool-white's walls. Ohibo, how becrimed, be curse-kissed and be dumb to it. Some for want of proper feeding in youth, others already caught in the honorable act of slicing out careers for family and carvers in conjunction. And, if emaciated enough, the person garroted may have suggested to whomever took the ham off, the plane being involved in darkness, low cirque vagary, nay, even the first old wagger of himself in the flesh, Bigissimus incarnadined, when false-sighted by the if such he was bully on the hill, a Tory of the Tories, for there had circulated freely fairly among his opposition the feeling that in so hibernating Master Ewicker, who, previous to that demi-detached life, had been known of barmecidal days, cook said, between soup and savoury, to get outside his own length of rainbow trout and tears at a tarn, as no man of woman born, nay, could, like the great crested grebe, devour his 70 of roach per life day, aye, and as many minnow a minute. The big mix may gibbet choke him, was, like the salmon of his ladder leap, all this time of totality, noctu seminipsum manducare, secretly and by suckage, feeding on his own misplaced fat. Ladies did not disdain those pagan iron times of the first city, called after the ugliest Danadune, when a front was a friend in need to carry, as earwigs do their dead, their soil to the earth ball where indeed we shall calm decline, our legacy unknown. Venuses were giglibly temptatrix, Vulcans guffawebbly eruptuous, and the whole wife's world frog full of fickles. Fact. Any human Indian you liked, any Aenon or after, would take her bare godkin out, or even a pair of them. Lugard, Lugadoo, and prettily pray with him, or with them even, every he to her taste, long for luck, to pet and tape patter and take pattest of all. Tip! Wells she'd woo and wills she'd win, but how the dear knowed where she'd marry her? Arbor, bucket room, caravan, ditch? Coach, carriage, wheelbarrow, duncart? Kate Strong, tip, a widow, tip, tip. She pulls a lane picture for us in a dreary dreamer setting, glowing and very visual, of old Dumplin as she knows it, a home-like cottage of elven stone with droppings of biddies, stinkant pushies, moggies duggies, rotten witcher wobbles, festering rubbages and beggars' bullets, if not worse, sending salmopharious germs in gleefully through the smithereen panes. Widow Strong then, as her weaker had turned him to the wall, tip, 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 did most all the scavenging from good King Hamlock's Galdendane onwards, though her lean bosom cleaned but sparingly, and her bare statement reads that, there being no macadamized side tracks on those old necropolitan nights, barring a foot better, Brian's Causeway, bordered with speedwell, white clover, and sorrel woodnose, which left off, being beaten, where the plaintiff was struck. She left down, as scavengers who will be scavengers must, her filth dump near the Serpentine in Fornix Park, at her time called Finewell's Keepsacre, but later Top Baptist Pat's Purge. The Dangerfield circling Butcher's Wood, where fireworker of Larity engaged the nutter of Castle Mallards, and Arthur Archer stunned Sturg, all over which fossil footprints, boot marks, finger signs, elbow dints, knee caves, breech bowls, ASO, were all successively traced of a most involving description. What subtler time-place of the wild than such wolf's belly castrament will hide a lover from Thurnsman's brandy hands, or a love letter, lostfully hers, that would be lust on Mar, than there, where ructions ended, then here where race began. And by the four hands of forethought, the first babe of reconcilement is laid in its last cradle of Hume, sweet Hume. Give over it, and no more of it. So pass the pig for child's sake. Amen. For here all highest sprach for Christians as for propaganda fides, and his nuptial eagles sharp their beaks of prey. And every mirthful man of us, poem by poem, falls back into this terrene. As it was, let it be, says he. And it is as though the Agni era-flammed and Mithra monished, and Shiva slew as Mayamutras, the streamlets of the obluvial waters of our no-archic memory withdrew, windingly go harksome, to some hasty swasty timberman torch priest, flame and fan, the ward of the wind that lightened the fire that lay in the wood that Jove bold, at her rude word. Posidonius, O fluctuary, lave that bloody stone as it is. What are you doing, your dirty minx, and his big tree block way up your path? Slip around, you, by the rear of the ministers. And you, take that barrel back where you got it, McShane's, and go the way your old one went, Hatchesbury Road. And gish, how they gushed away, the penny fares, a whole school for scamper, with their sashes flying sish behind them, all the little pearly pets. Ici la chapelle. Any Lucans, please? Yes, the viability of vicinals, if invisible, is invincible. And we are not trespassing on his corns either. Look at all the plotch. Flaminian. If this was Hannibal's walk, it was Hercules' work. And 100,000 of the unemancipated slaved the way. The mausoleum lies behind us, O Adgigasta, multi populi pater, and there are milestones in their cheered Milias faltering along the train's track by Brahm and Anton Hermes. Per omnibus secula si calarum. Amen. But the past has made us this present of a radar road. So more bower to O'Connell. Though rainy hidden, your rhino hide. And if he's not a Romeo, you may scallop your hat. Whereupunder in the fane of St. Fierker. Halt. It was hard by the how who goes there, plainly on this dissoluted and abucan cold spot, rupestric then, resurfaced that now is, that lateral sold if lateral bought, in the saddle of Brennan's, now Malpa's place, pass, versts and versts from true civilization, not where his streams top their traums halt. Beneath here, but where live land yon tide mered with the wild, saltly with flood, that the attacker, though under medium and between colours, with truly Kropotkin pluck engaged the adversary, who had more in his eye than was less to his leg, but whom, for plunder's sake, he mistook in the heavy rain to be Oglethorpe or some other Ginkes, par apparently, to whom the head and heelless chicken nest egg bore some Michelangelo-esque resemblance, making use of sacrilegious languages to the effect that he would challenge their hemophores to exterminate them, but he would canonize the earth's life out of him and lay him out contritely, as smart as the had his night prayer said, 3 Patrick Knoxters and a couplet of Hail Marys. Tout est sacré pour un sacreur, femme à barbe ou homme nourrice. At the same time, so as to pluck well let the blubby well goats out of him, catching hold of an oblong bar he had, and with which he usually broke furnitures, he rose the stick at him. The border incident pre-repeated itself. The pair, whether they were Nipulono engaging Wei Ling Tuan, or the Raskias trying to reconnoitre the General Bukalev, man may not say, struggled apparently for some considerable time, the cradle rocking equally to one and oppositely from the other on its law of capture and recapture, under the all-in rules around the book safe, fighting like Purple Top and Tipperary Swede, as stuck as that cat to that mouse in that tube of that Christchurch organ. Did the mirage of a girl cloud pensive float above them, light young charm, in ribbons and pigtail? And in the course of their tussle, the taller man, who had opened his bully bowl to beg, said to the miner, who was carrying the worm, a handy term for the portable distillery, which consisted of 3 vats, 2 jars and several bottles, though we purposely say nothing of the stiff, both parties having an interest in the spirits. "Let me go, Potheen! I hardly knew ye." Later on, after the solstitial pause for refreshment, the same man, or a different and younger hem of the same him, asked in the vernacular with a very ugly chew-chin grin as if he forgot something. "Was 6 Victorios 15 pigeon take ye offer you? Tell he me, Longfella, by picky pocky 10 to 4 months behind the side." There were some further collider banter and severe tries to convert for the best part of an hour, and now, a Woden affair in the shape of a Webley. We at once recognize our old friend Ned, of so many ill or temperate letters, fell from the intruser, who, sacramented servitor of the divine zeal, whereupon became friendly, and, saying not his shirt to tear, to no wanted, joking and knobberries all aside laying, if his changed companion, who stuck still to the invention of his strong-box with a tenacity corroborating their mutual territorial rights, happened to have the loot's change of a 10-pound crickler about him at the moment, adding that, hap so, he would pay him back the 6 weeks odd, do you see, out of that for what was taken on the men of samples last June or July. Do you follow me, Captain? To this the other, Billy with the bull, who had mummed and mauled up to that, for he was hesitancy carried to excelsis, rather amusedly replied, "Would you be grossly surprised, Hill, to learn that, as it so happens, I honestly have not such a thing as the least chance of a tin-pan crackler anywhere about me at the present moment, but I believe I can see my way, as you suggest, it being Yuletide or Yoddenfest, and as it's Mad Nuts, son, for you, when it's Hatter's Hares, mon, for me, to advance you something like 4 and 7 pence between hopping and tropping, which you might just as well have, boy Bacchus, to buy JJ and S with." There was a minute's silence before memory's fires rekindling, and then, heart alive! At the very first wind of gay and whiskey, Wick ears pricked up. The starving gunman, strike him pink for a chip of the old flint, became strangely calm, and forthright swear by all his large personnel that the thorn tree of Sheol might ramify up his sheophone to the Luxor point legs, but he would go good to him sometime, marks my word for't. In the Nichtchen glossary, which purveys a prioric roots for a posteriorius tongues, this is not language at any sense of the world, and one might as fairly go and kiss his spokes as fail to certify whether the war trophy alluded at some lives earlier was that something like a jug, to what a cocktail French hen or the portly folium of hastes and leisures about to continue. Remarksing in languid oily, seemingly much more highly pleased than tongue could tell at this opening of a lifetime and the foretaste of Dunbank pearl mothers, and the boy to wash down which he would feed to himself in the rude cow at Tallaght, and then into the good woman at Ringsend, and after her in at Conway's Inn at Blackrock, and, first to fall, cursed be all, where appetite would keenest be, funeral fare or fun fain real, at a Adam and Eve's in Quantity Street, by the grace of Game Queen Talte, her will and testament. You stunning little Southdowner! I'd know you anywhere, Declaney, let me truthfully tell you, in or out of the Lexington of life, and who the hell else be your Blanche patch on the bony part? Goal ball I've struck this daylit dilate night of nights, by golly. My hat, you have some bolly German grit, Sundowner. He spat in his Faust, Exin. He toped the raw best, pardon. He poked his pick, a tip is a tap, and he tucked his friend's sleeve. And with that, the queer mixture exchanged the pecks in an embrace or poke poxy as practiced between brothers of the same breast, hallelujah, killelujah, all in the law, and, having ratified before the god of the day their Torgan truce, which belittlers have small called the treating to cognac, turning his fast menial straight in the direction of Moscow, he first got rid of a few bitsmillers and huro shoes and levanted off with tubular turbulence at a bull's run over the Aspect Bridge, spitting his teeth on roots, with the 7 and 4 in Danegeld and their humoral hurlbed or other uncertain weapon of lignum vitae, but so ever more reminiscent of a toboggan poop, picked up, to keep some crow-plucking appointment with some rival realtor anywheres between Peerage and the Little Horn, while this poor Delaney, who they left along with the Confederate fender behind, and who, albeit balls bluffed, bore up wonderfully wonder all of it, with a whole number of plum-sized contusions, plus salasala bruised coccyx, all over him, reported the occurrence in the best way he could, to the flabbergaze of the whole lab, giving the paddy banners the military salute as for his excellencies the O'Daffy, in justifiable hope that, in Nobulo-Roman review of the hugely satisfactory conclusion of the negotiations and the juggle-monkish agreement de-interative, some lotion or fomentation of poppy heads would be generously exhibited to the parts at the nearest watch-house on Vicar Lane, the white ground of his face all covered with diagonally red-crossed non-fatal mammalian blood as proof positive of the seriousness of his character, and that he was bleeding in self-defense, stanch it, from the nostrils, lips, pavilion, and palate, while some of his hitter's hairs had been pulled off his nut's head by cold, though otherwise his all-round health appeared to be middling along, as it proved most fortunate that not one of the 206 bones and 501 muscles in his torso was a whit the worse for her whacking. Her who? Now then, leaving clashing ash, brawn and muscle and brass made to oust earthenborn, and rock crystal to wreck isinglass, But worming along gradually for our savings back towards mother waters, so many miles from Bank and Dublin Stone, Olympiading even till the 11th dynasty to reach that 32nd Hamlach, and to the question of Boney's unlawfully obtaining a pierced paraflam and claptrap fireguard, there crops out the still more salient point of the politisch leanings and town pursuits of our forebear, Eldon de Dunelli. May his ship thick stick in the bottle of the river, and all his cruisers stock locked in the barrel of the seas, who, when within the black of your toenail, sir, of being mistakenly ambushed by one of the Udawidas, and as close as made no matter, ma'am, to being coyote off-hand when the Huguenot heckler with a Peter the Painter wanted to hole him, was consistently practicing the first of the primary and imprescriptible liberties of the Pacific subject, by circulating, be British, boys, to your belly bone, and chuck a chum a chance, belongs one of our unprohibited cemetery throughfarts, open to buggy and bike, to walk Wellington Park Road, with the curb or Quaker's quack nostrum under his oxter and his alpenstock in his red hand, a highly commendable exercise, or number 2 of our acta legitima plebeia, on the brink, beware to balk a man at his will, of taking place upon a public seat, to what, bear by butts, most easterly, but all goes west, of Blackpool bridges, as a public protest, and to likewise without intent to annoy either, being praised good thankfully for the wrath-bereaved ringdove, and the fear-stung boa constrictor, and all the more right jolly well pleased, which he was, at having other people's weather. But to return to the Atlantic and Phoenicia proper. As if that were not to be enough for anyone, but little headway, if any, was made in solving the was-not-to-be crime conundrum, when a child of Mam, Festy King, of a family long and honorably associated with the tar and feather industries, who gave an address in Old Plomosh, mayor of the Saxons, in the heart of a foul-famed Potheen district, was subsequently hailed up at the Old Bailey on the Calends of Mars, under an incompatibly framed indictment of both the counts, from each equinoxious points of view, the one fellow's fetch being the other fellow's person, that is to say, flying cussheads out of his overalls and making fesses amidst his forces on the field. Oh yea, oh yea! When the prisoner, soaked in methylated, appeared in dry dock, a patently ambrosiorialized like Kersey's curdery caricature, wearing, besides stains, rents, and patches, his fight shirt, straw braces, sou'wester, and a policeman's corkscrew trousers all out of the true, as he had purposely torn up all his Kimchimanx bespokes in the Mamer time, deposing for his execution with all the floors of spars in the Royal Irish vocabulary, how the whole Padder-Jack Martin Trepiaside suite and all the sulphate of copperas had fallen off him quite unaccountably, like the crystallizations of Alamon even, while he was trying for to stick fire to himself. In fact, he was dripping as he found upon stripping for a pipkin of malt, as he feared the cooled rain. It was attempted by the Crown, P.C. Robert, to show that King, Elua Crowbar, once known as Malachy, impersonating a climbing boy, rubbed some pixels of any luvial peat smoor over his face, plucks and pussas, with a clane turf as the best means of disguising himself, and was at the Middle White Fair in Mudford of a Thursday, feasts of peeler and pole, under the ill-assumed names of Tykingfest and Rabborg, picked by him and Anthony out of a telephone book, allegedly with a pedigree pig, unlicensed, and a hyacinth. They were on that sea by the plain of Ear 999 years, and they never cried crack or ceased from regular paddle-wicking, till that they landed there too and a trifling selves, amidst camel and ass, greybeard and suckling, priest and pauper, marmatron and Mary Mag, into the middle of the mudstorm. The gathering, convened by the Irish agricultural and prepastoral organizations to help the Irish muck to look his brother Dane in the face, and attended, thanks to Larry, by large numbers of Christies and Jews' totems, to spite of the deluge, was distinctly of a scattery kind, when the Ballybrickin he could get no good of, after cock of the walking through a few fancy-fought mains, ate some of the doorweg, the pikey later selling the gentleman ratepayer because she, Francie's sister that is to say, ate a whole side of her, the animal's, sty, kista troja, in order to pay off, his or lick, 6 doubloons 15 arrears of his, the villains, not the rumblers, rent. Remarkable evidence was given anon by an eye, ear, nose, and throat witness whom Wesleyan chapel-goers suspected of being a plainclothes priest, W.P., situate at Null Null Medical Square, who, upon letting down his rice and peas green cover disc, and having been sullenly cautioned against yawning while being grilled, smiled, as he had had a one bumper at parting from Mrs. Mulrow in the morning, and stated to his elicitor under his Morse most accents, God bless, that he slept with a bona fides, and that he would be door-bringing there that night, and how he was pleased to remember the 5th of November, hat in a ring, rowdy-o, which, with the Jubilees of Juno and the dates of old Lanxiety, was going, please the rainmaker, to descends within the ephemerides of profane history, all one with Tournay, yet to slay and Temora, and that one thing, which would particularly strike a person of such sorely tried observational powers as Sam, him, and Moffat, though there is not to reason why, the striking thing about it was that he was petrified to see, hear, taste, and smell on Struggle Street as his time of night, how Hyacinth O'Donnell, B.A., described in the calendar as a mixer and word painter, with part of a civis pacem, Gaeltacht for Dunkfork, on a fair green at the hour of 24 o'clock sought, the bully Cassidy of the Friedhofer, to sack, sock, stab, and slaughter single-handed another 2 of the old kings, Gash McGale and Roaring O'Brien Jr., both changelings, unlocalized, of no address and in non-communicables, between him and whom, ever since develops before the mice of Luz, bad blood existed on the ground of the boar's trespass on the bull, or because he first parted his polar beaver hair in 2 ways, or because they were creep-foxed and grouse-uppers over a nippy in a noveletta, or because they could not say meath, mute and daft, meath. The Liffigans, he said, local congsmen and Donalds, kings of the Arans and the Dalkeys, kings of Mud and Tory, even the Goat King of Killorglin, were egged on by their supporters in the shape of bitter women, with bow-strung hair of Carotha-genuine ruddiness, waving crimson petties and screaming like stuck Krugers from Izot's tower top. There were cries from the thick-sets in court and from the McDublins on the Boherna Brina of "Mind Messer! The band from Banagher! Mixer! Produce O'Donnell! Aboo! Exhibit his relics! Use the tongue more! Give lip less!" But it oozed out, in Deadman's dark scenery court, through cross-examination of the case-hardened testis, that when and where that knife of knives, the 3-partied ambush was laid, roughly spouting around half hours twixt dusk and dawn, by water hoses, Middle European time, near Stop and Think, High Chief Eververance and only Upfall Tree and all the land, there was not as much light from the widowed moon as would dim a child's altar. The mixer, accordingly, was bluntly broached, and in the best basil to boot, as to whether he was one of those lucky cocks for whom the audible, visible, nosable, edible world existed. That he was only too cognitively, conatively, cogit abundantly sure of it because, living, loving, breathing, and sleeping morpho-milosopho pancreates, as he most significantly did, Whenever he thought, he heard, he saw, he felt, he made a bell clipper, 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 clipper. Whether he was practically sure too of his lucks and trues in this king and blousyman business, that he was particularly so. Certified? As cat could be. Be lying? Be the lonely I will. It was Morbus or somebody. A quite. Shellsday's son. A satyr in Badens. And how did the green-eyed mister arrive at the B.A.? That it was like his Paul. A cross-grained trapper with murdy-odd ooks, all-ferrated Aries, inquiline nays, and a twitcherous mouth? He would be. Who could pit you at to a tenured fool when stalled? Ballera jobbera. Some major bore too, Iguines. And with a stopper head, bottle shoulders, a barrel bulk, and tumblerous legs, redip-nominated, Helmingham, Urchinwine, Rutter, Egbert, Cromwell, Odin, Maximus, Esmer, Saxon, Isa, Vercingetorix, Ethelwulf, Ruprecht, Idvallo, Bentley, Osmond, Dicer, Dick Dresselman? Holy St. Eiffel, the very phoenix! It was Chudley McNall once more between the Daffodades and the dumb scene. The two child spies was praising him also de Vologne, but the renting of his rock was from the three wicked Vancouverers. Forests bent downwards, art thou sure? You bet, come Hillam comes. One of the Oxman's thingabossers, what? Burgling and perfectly beautiful. And had he been refreshed by the founts of bounty playing There is a Grain Eland in Long's Gargling Barrel? A loss of Lord Edward and a lack of Sir Philip, a Sergeant Shower-a-Down could suck more gargling bubbles out of the 5 lamps than Porterant's praise. Wheat-ored, however, and with fallen memories. His house wouldn't, laving his leave time in Blackpool. But, of course, he could call himself Tem too if he had time to. You bet he could any Tom. When he pleased, win and place. A stoker tempted by eavesdripping against the driver, who was a witness as well. Sacred Avatar, how the devil did they guess it? 2 dreamiums in 1 dromium. Yes, and no error. And both as like as a duel of lentils? Precisely. So he was pelted out of the coram populo, was he? Be the powers that be that he was. The prince in principle should not expose his person. Makewole. Ruske men, camarade? Sooner Galwegian, he would say. Not unintoxicated, fair witness. Drunk as a fish up. Asked to whether she minded whether he smoked? Not if he boxed into flagons. And his ejaculations to his cross-Ken-lorn Cossa. It was Corso in Corsu on Corso again. The gracious miss was, we not doubt, sensible to how Yellow Etty on the Fox was altered. That she usually was, oh doubt me not. As to his religion, if any, it was the see you Sunday sort. Exactly what he, Sour Harry, meant by a pederast prig. Be Jacob's goat, just a gent who prayed his Lent. And if this middle-class Portavorus was a useful beast, by night as useful as a vomit to a shorn man. If he had Ragnarized their courts marshals, that day in days he had. Lindendelly, Coke, or Skillies, spell me guard without a gate. Halia drobe. The grazing rights, Mrs. Magistra Martinet, expired with the expiry of the goat's sire, if they were not mistaken. That he exactly could not tell the worshipfuls, but his mother invaders had the recipes for the price of the coffin, and that he was there to tell them that herself was the velocipede that could tell them Kit Kat. A maundering tongue in a poundering jowl, farther ardour about the matters of pronunciation, distributary endings, envy recommends. Quare hircum? No answer. Unde gentium Noah. Are you not dancing on the edge of a volcano? Sir, I am deed. And how old of him? He was intended to study Pulu, which was meant in a shirt of 2 shifts McOgam made, or up Finn's 3-hatted ladder. That a head in thighs under a bush at the sun face would bait a serpent to a mill race through the heather. Bird-coloured deaf-dumb ethnic fort, perhaps? Sure, and Glom's candy Jotal Feason as well. Hokey Jason's then in a PG Jesus? On a pontiff's order, as tour as there's an Ital on attack. As a gollerly bit to Joss? Lily and Tulily. But why this hen-cow chef, and whence this second tone, son yet son? He had the cow-taw in his boxers, flay your face. So that's solar sistress, setting odds evens at defiance, took the Lord from Labour writer? What displaced Top, Dilk and Halley, not being greatly in love with the game. And changing the vendors from the king's head to the Republican's arms, as to the pugnacities the wings from flagpole to antipost during the F-race round Father Thyme's backside, and the regents in the plant zone reigning, with the Skiddy Stars and the Morkan wind-up, how they appealed to him then. That it was Wildfire's night on all the Betty Gallaghers, Mick Michael's swords shrieking Shreks through the Wilkinses, and Necker Nicholas toasting forks pricking prongs up the tunny bladders. Let there be fight? And there was. Fought. On the side of the angels, you said? Guinea's Cappy said, between what they said and the Pussykittys. In the middle of the garth, then, that they mustn't touch it. The devoted couple was, or were, only 2 disappointed solicitresses on the job of the unfortunate class on Saturn's mountain fort. That was about it, ja. And Camelus then said to Gemellus, I should know you. Perfectly. And Gemellus then said to Camellus, yes, your brother? Absolutely. And if it was all about that, egregious sir, about that and the other. If he was not alluding to the hole in the wall, that he was, when he was not alluding from the hole of the woman. Briefly, how such begin-all finally struck him now. Like the crack that broke the bank in Multifarnham. Whether he fell in with what they meant, that he supposed he did. Thus Thoris Thomas Thumb, the Ruddersis Drotter in Robuctum. Sir Topical? And subhuman. It was, in Yapanoi's language, ach bad clap. Oh. Cord awful mist. Shocking. Bloody Akfal, Mecklenburg, Hura, Hora, Scorta, Strumper, Porna, Nanny, Cock, Suppas, Tipper, Tapper, Tapper, Strip, Patanache? Ah. Such as Turley pierced Aurelius? That he might never that night, treely and rurally. Aux and oars with Reen O'Cayley, to put it tertianly. We wrong? You have it all right. Mehr Dracha Neunquish. But a new complexion was put upon the matter, when to the perplexedly uncondemnatory bench, whereon Punic judgeships strove with penal law, the senior king of all, Pegger Festy, as soon as the outer layer of stucco muck had been removed at the request of a few live jurors, declared in a loud burst of poesy through his Brythonic interpreter on his oath, with past wishes for a vera mere Rasmus, whereas take notice be the relics of the bones of the story bush all that was 8B Cleopatrick, the sow, princess of parked porkers, afore God and all their honours and king's commons that, what he would swear to the tyranny of Dundalgan or any other tyranny, if life circles followed him about, sure that was no steal, and that, nevertheless, what was deposited from that eye-bold, ear-big, nose-naving gut-throat, he did not fire a stone, either before or after he was born, down and up to that time. And, incidentalizing that they might talk about McCarthy, or they might walk to Bellastarty, or they might join the neighbor party and come on to Porterfeud, this the sock-do lodger had the neck to endorse, with the head bowed on him over his outturned nor'easter, by protesting to his lip-readers with a just-been-cleaned barefacedness, a beam of moonlight's hope, in the same Trelawney what he would impart, please bench, to the Lloyd Joses and the gentlemen in juries and the 4 of masterers, who had been all those yarns yearning for that good one about why he left Dublin, that Amrita Beaker coddling doom, as an Irishman was as good as any canton natal, if he was to perish by the market stake before the dorming of the morn, he scalt never ask to see sight or light of this world or the other world or any either world of Tyrone and Og, as true as he was there in that jacker-box that minute, or wheeled or whined, no thanks to use, the inexhaustible wassail horn of his kibosh, tot the hails up the whales of the end-known app-god of the fire of the moving way of the hawks with our heroes and war horror, if ever, in all his exchequered career, he up or lave a chancery hand to take or throw the sign of a mortal stick or stone at man, Yolam or Salvation Army, either before or after being baptized down to that most holy and ever-blessed hour, Aham. Here, upon the half-neat castle knockers attempting categorically, in his excitement, the Ledo had broken extra Castilian, into which the whole audience persevered and pursued him alla podrida, to lilt his holy master pause and make the sign of the Roman god helig face. Haroshi, strist. Out broke much yellachtas from the owners in the hall. Ha! In which, under the mollification of Methaglin, the testifier reluctantly, but with ever so ladylike indecorum, joined. Ah! The hilario hoot of Pegger's wind-up come jostled as neatly with the tristy tone of the wet pinters as were they, isce et ille, equals of opposites, evolved by a one same power of nature or of spirit, iste, as the sole condition and means of its him and her manifestation, and polarized for reunion by the synthesis of their antipathies. Distinctly different were their dual destinies. Whereas the maidies of the bar, a peerless trentaine, a lunarized score, when the Eranthus murmured, "Show 'em the post," fluttered and flattered around the willingly pressed, nominating him for the swiney prize, complimenting him, the captivating youth, on his having all his senses about him, stinking thiothins through his curls, oh fiend, oh der, and bringing busses to his cheeks, their masculine Irish arose, his knees clur, and legando round his nice new neck for him, and piscicagnoling his woolly wags, with their dindy-dandy sugar-de-candy, courier McCreamy posteen flown, to believe them of all his untiring young dames, and send them treats in their times. Amen. It was not unobserved of those presents, their worships, how, of one among all, her deputized to defame him by the Lunar Sisters Celibacy Club, a love-looking leap girl, all alonely, Gemagensia of the make-giddy culling reeks, he, wan and pale in his unmixed admiration, seemed blindly, mutely, tastelessly, tactlessly enamored, with her upon him in shining eminglement, the shame of his his'n shifting into the shimmering of hers. Youth see, beaut see, he's her chap, and she'll tell mammas when she gaes home, till the wild wish of her she melted moist musically mid the dark deep of his shone. And whereas distracted, for was not just this in effect which had just caused that, the effect of that which it had caused to occur, the 4 justices laid their wigs together, Uncius, Mancius, Puntius, and Pilex, but could do no worse than promulgate their standing verdict of Nolan's brumans, whereon after King, having murdered all the English he knew, picked out his pockets and left the tribunal scot-free, trailing his Tommylommy's tunic in his hurry, therein under proudly showing off the blink pitch to his breeches to prove himself, and plays use, a rail genteel. To the Swiss bodyguards curial but court-like, Commodore Valley O'Hary, Arthrid Generosi, the firewater louver retorted with such a wine-smelling fortituderageous raw down ham's tenuhide as would turn the Latin stomach even of a Tumus Aquinas. We were prepared for the chap's claptrap, the accent, but took us as by surprise, and now we're gashing it like gash from a burner. So that all the 2 from 30 advocatuses within echo, pulling up their briefs at the creek cry, "Shun the punman!" safely and soundly soccred that Phenomine parish poser. How dare he, impromptu right to way hames, march to his thanks, gracious agam, to all the wrong donatrices. For like your true Venus on Esau, he was doth timid as the deers at bottom, to bis drink bottles dingy dwellings, Togang, where he shat in, zoo, like the muddy goal bird who he was, done. The chastity's bells conclaiming, "You and your gift of your gaft of your garbage about our father," and gain Grigando, "Hon, Berg, now, pewter, scam, shams, shames." And so it all ended. Artha Karma Dharma Moksha. Ask caviar for the K. And so everybody heard their plaint, and all listened to their applause. The letter, the litter, and the soother, the bitter, of eyebrow penciled, by lip stipple penned, borrowing a word and begging the question, and stealing tinder and slipping like soap. From dark Rosa Lane, a sigh and a weep. From Lesbia Louche, the beam in her eye. From lone Coogan Berry, his arrow of song. From Sean Kelly's anagram, a blush at the name. From I am the Sullivan, that trumpeting tramp. From Suffering Dufferin, the sit of her style. From Kathleen May Vernon, her maybe fair efforts. From Philpot Curran, his Scotch love MacReither. From him up to Philadelphus, the weary-o, the leary-o. From Samuel Lever or Damuel Lover, that jolly old Molly bit, or that born saunter by. From Tim Finnegans' weak tribe's loss of strength to his soul wheel. From the wedding on the green, a girlies, the gretness of joy boys. From Pat Mullen, Tom Mellon, Dan Meldon, Don Meldon, a slick stick picnic made in moat by Maldoons. The solid man saved by his sillied woman. Cracker-jolking away like a hearse on fire. The elm that whimpers at the top told the stone that moans when stricken. Wind broke it. Wave bore it. Reed wrote of it. Sighs ran with it. Hand tore it, and wild went war. Hen trieved it, and plight pledged peace. It was folded with cunning, sealed with crime, uptight by a harlot, undone by a child. It was life, but was it fair? It was free, but was it art? The old hunks on the hill read it to perfection. It made Ma make merry and Sissy so shy, and rubbed some shine of Shem, and put some shame into Sean. Yet Una and Eta spell famine with drought, and Agrippa, the pro-bastard, spills tribulations in his threne. Ah, furchte Fruchte, timid Danaids. In a melo mu, frei is Frau, and swie is two and swo is free. Anamala, woe is we. A pair of sycophantes with amygdaline eyes, one old obster-lumpy pumpkin and 3 meddlers on their slice. And that was how, from sin, from sun, a city arose. Fin, fun, a sitting arose. Now tell me then, what was it? Oh. So there you are now, there they were, when all was over again, the 4 with them, sitting around up in their judges' chambers, in the muniment room of their marshalsea, under the auspices of Lally, around their old traditional tables of the law, like so many Solons to talk it over all the same again. Well and truly dry, suffering law the ring, according to King's Evelyn's. So help her goat and kiss the book. Festives and higher jinks and Gintion and her Beatty Rossi, Betty Doty, and not to forget now Aduna O'Donnell. The 4 of them, and thank God now there were no more of them. So pass the push for Port's sake. Be it soon. And do you remember Singer Bob, the bad father, the same, the great how do you call him, and his old nickname, Dirty Daddy Pantaloons, in his monopoliums behind the War of the 2 Roses, with Michael Victory, the Sheeman's priester, before he caught his paper dispensation from the Poke, Old Minnis and Minster York? Do I mind? I mind the gush of the mon, like ballybog manure works on a trade wind's day. And the O'Moily Gracies and the O'Brieny Rossies chaffing him bludge-face and playing him pranks. How do you do to do, North Mister? Get into my way. Ah, dear o' me for sailor she, gone over the bays. When Gina body meet a body. Yara, why would she heed that old gasometer with his hoopin, coppin, and his dyin' boozy cuff, and all the birds of the south side after her, Minxie Cunningham, their dear divorcee darling, Jimmys and Johnnies to be her Joe? Hold hard. There's 3 other corners to our Isles cork float. Sure, 'tis well I can tell-smell him, H2CE3, that would take a township's breath away. Gob, and I knows him too as well as I do myself, heaving up the K-wall by the 32 to 11, with his lime-looking horse bags full of sesame seed, the white-side Kaffir, and his Seaman's effluvium and his scent-painted voice, puffing out his thundering big brown cabbage. Pa, thought I'm glad a gal for his paws dinfam. Go burrow, says he, lanky she's. Go bugger ye, says I, oh breezes. I sniffed that lad long before anyone. It was when I was in my far father out at the west, and she and myself, the red-headed girl, first nighters down Sycamore Lane. Fine field play we had of it, mid the kissabeds frisking in the cool curkle dusk of the lushiness. My perfume of the pampas, says she, meaning me, putting out her nether lights. I'd sooner one precious sip at your pure mountain dew than enrich my acquaintance with that big brewer's belch. And now a drink is shorter than a story. And so they went on, the 4-bottle men, the analysts, unquam and nunquam and lunquam again. Der Anschluss, about her who's before and his where's after, and how she was lost away in the fern, and how he was founded deep on deep in a near, and the rustlings and the twitterings and the raspings and the snappings and the sighings and the paintings and the ukukukings and the hist, the springer partings and the hast, the bye-bye scuttlings, and all the scandal monkers and the pure crakes that used to be up that time living and lying and rating and riding round Nansbelly Square, and all the buds in the bush, and the laughing jackass. Harik, 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 the rose is white in the darik. And Sunfeller's nose has got rhinoceros from haunting the rose in the parik. So all rogues lean to rhyme, and contra-drinking themselves about Lily Trilly Law upon Hilly, and Mrs. Neal of the 9 Corsages, and the old Marquis, their best afar, and, arrah, sure there was never a Marquis at all among the Manleys, and dear Sir Armory, queer Sir Roomery, and the old house by the Chirpelly sod, and all the goings-on so very wrong, long before when they were going on retreat in the old Gameldarks, the 4 of them, in Milton's Park under lovely Father Whisperer, and making her love with his stuff in the languish of flowers, and feeling to find was she mushy, and wasn't that very both of them, the saucy sisters, a Drahereen o' McCree, and peep, meeting waters most improper, peep-pet, all round the garden, trickle, 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 triss, please, my man, may I go flirting? Farmer's gone with the groom, how they used her, mused her, licked her and cuddled. I differ with ye. Are you sure of yourself now? You're a liar, excuse me. I will not, and you're another. And Lully holding their breach of the peace for them. Poor Lully, to give and to take, and to forego the past, and all will be forgotten. Ah, ho! It was too bad to be falling out about her kindness, pet, and the shape of oorang's time. Well, all right, Lily. And shake a hand. And shank us more. For Craig's sake. Be it suck. Well, even should not the framing up of such figments in the evidential order bring the true truth to light as fortuitously as a dim seer's setting of a star chart might, heaven helping it, uncover the nakedness of an unknown body in the fields of blue, or as forhearingly as the sip speeches of all mankind have foliated, earth seizing them, from the root of some funner stotter, all the soundest sense to be found immense our special mentalists now holds, securus judicat orbis terrarum, that by such playing possum, our hagious curious ancestor bestly saved his brush with his posterity, you, charming coparsonas, us, heirs of his talesy. Gun dogs of all breeds were beagling with renounced Irby and Orbic bugles, hot to run him, given law, on a scent breast high, keen for the worry. View. From his hold outratted, across the Juletide's genial courselands of Humphreys Chase, from Mullany Hop and Peacock's Town, then bearing right upon Tankard's Town, the outlier, a white Nolan which Mr. Löwenstyle Fitzursus Basset Beaters had first misbadgered for a broin of some sort, led Bayers the run. Then through Raystown and Harlockstown, and, looping the loop, to Tankard's Town again. Ere Kenny Hare for doubling, through Cheever's Town they raced him, through Loughlin's Town and Nutt's Town to wind him by the boolies. But from the good turn when he last was lost, check, upon ye hill of Rut, in full winter coat with ticker pads, pointing for his rooming house in his roll-top Royal Hessians, A deaf foxer's volcanism hid him close in covert, miraculously raven-fed and buoyed up, in rumor, reticule, honorsome and abomasome, upon, may all Bruham have his meat, the cream-clotted sherriness of cinnamon syllabub. Mickle raved, nickel saved. Hens, hounds, hide home. Preservative perseverance in the re-education of his intestines was thus the rebuttal by Wilkie sort of get the big bulge on the whole bunch of sparsoakers, dieting against glues and gravies in that sometime pre-street pro-town. Vainly violence, virulence, and vituperation sought well-nigh utterly to attack and abridge, to derail and depontify, to enrate and inroad, to on-goad and unhume the great shipping mogul and underlinen overlord. But the spoil of hesitance, the spell of hesitancy, is a take, is it a she? Tittery-taw, tattery-tail, hesitance, hump on a dimply, hey, 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 a vincy-venky. Assemblyman murmured, Reynard is slow. One feared for his days. Did they yawn? 'Twas his stomach. Eruct? The liver? A gush? From his viscers? Pung? Deliver him, or load? He had laid violent hands on himself. It was brought in Fugger's newsletter. Lain down, all in, fagged out, with equally melancholy death. For the Triduum of Saturnalia, his goat-servant had paraded his willing sons in the forum, while the Jenny infanted the less to be greeted raucously with hooks in the fierce and, the yard stated, measured with missiles too, from 100 of manhood and a wimmering of vibes. Big went the bang. Then wild-wide was quiet. A report. Bad old character common or rumkenbung. Silence. Last famer put it under ether. The nose or the lol had driven him blem. Blem. Stun blem. Sparks flew. He had fled again, open Shanshima, this country of exile, sloughed off, sidles homed, via his old nordist subterranean tunnel shored with bedboards, stowed away and anchored in a Dutch bottom, tunk the Asa, hot SS Finlandia, and was even now, under an Islamitic new name, occupying, in his 7th generation, a physical body, Cornelius Magrathus, in Asia Major, where as Turk of the theatre, the first house all flatty, the king 11 sharps, he had bepiasted the boy danseuse from the opulence of his omnibox, while as Arab at the street door he had bepested the bumbershaws for the arms of a para's pants. Wires hummed. Peacefully, general astonishment assisted by regretitude had put a term till his existence. He saw the family Sagath, resigned himself, put off his remainders, was recalled and scrap-heaped by the maker. Chirpings crossed. An infamous private ailment, vulgo vario venereal, had claimed end-right, closed his vicious circle, snap. Gems jarred. He had walked towards the middle of an ornamental lily pond, when inebriated up to the point where braced shirts meet knickerbockers, a swangfish daring the buoyant waters, when Rodman's first aiding hands had rescued un from very possibly several feet of demi-fresh water. Marsh spread. On Umbrella Street, where he did drinks from a pumps, a kind workman, Mr. Whitlock, gave him a piece of his wood. What words of power were made fast between them, eke-names and auch-nomes, agnomina, egnumina, that, oh that, did Hansard tell us, would gar Guns Dub's earwag in every pub of all the Città. Betty believes a Baton, while Hogan hears a Hod, yet Peter prefers a Punzelschäpner, and Cope and Bull go cup and ball. And the Cassidy Craddock roam and dream round ever a week and never a wager, is still immer and immer a wagering over it, a cradle with a care in it, or a casket with a kick behind. Toties, testies, quoties, questies. The war is in words, and the wood is the world. Mapley me, willowy we, hickory he, and you yourselves. How for him chirrupeth ever each bird, from gold dawn glory to glowworm gleam. We were low quacks, did we not tacit turn? Elsewhere they hear no concern of the Guinnesses. Cracklings crickled. A human pest cycling, pissed, and recycling, passed. About the sledgy streets of the garden city, here he was, pushed, again. He was loose at large, and, oh baby, might be anywhere, but only the ruining of the rain has heard. More's nuisance noised when a disguised ex-nun of huge stand-build and masculine manners in her fairly fat 40s, Capulenta Gigasta, had attracted attention by arbitrary conduct with a hominibus. Ariel's bills to coastal listeners of an Urtex collector's budget, fully bigs, sporan, tie, tough, tabard, and bloody anti-chill cloak. Its tailors, Bairnfathers, tab reading VPH. Found nice Scout Brothers hole, and divers shiver to think what kind of beast wolves, croppies, or fourpenny friars had devoured him. C.W. cast wide. Whit Finn's lick, Drone's sword gleam, Valkyr locked. On his Pinksir's postern, the boys had it, at Whit Weekend had been nailed an inked-up name and title, inscribed in the national cursives, accelerated, regressive, filiform, turreted, and enveloped in pigotry. Move up, Momty. Mike room for Rumty. By order, Nicholas Plug. And this go, no Pentecostal jest about it, how gregarious his race soever, or skilful, learned, wise, cunning, knowledgeable, clear, profound, his saying, fortitudo, fraud, or prudentia proven, were he chief, count, general, field marshal, prince, king, or Miles the Slasher in his person, with a Molia Mordor mansion in the Breffnian Empire, and a place of inauguration on the hill of Tallymongan. There had been real murder of the Rugelach, Roigel, Raxocraxian variety. The MacMahon chaps it was that had done him in. On the field of Werder, the rampant combatants had left him lying with his Dexter hand coup resurrected in a purée de pommée bloody proper. Indeed, not a few thick and thin well-wishers, mostly of the Clontarf-minded class, Colonel John Ball O'Rourke for examples, even ventured so far as to loan or beg copies of D. Blaney's trilingual triweekly, Scatterbrain's Afternoon Post, so as to make certain sure one time and be satisfied of their quasi-contributoritarians having become genuinely quite beatly dead, whether by land, whether by water. Transocean et teleclamatim. The latter. Shall their hope then be silent, or Macfarlane lack of lamentation? He lay under leagues of it, in deep Bartholomew's deep. Achtung! Pozor! Attention! Bikeroy beside smucky young peach schoolies. Tri pestirnanes adventir met Lochlana fata rifionis geheven. Bannerlana bangs ballyhooly out of her buttery of a bull of oak. But, their bright little contemporaries notwithstanding, brave news word come to town of how, on the morrowing morn of the suicidal murder of the unrescued expatriate, as like as a snake comes slidewent down that oak tree unto the Duke of Beavers, you may have seen some liquid amber exude exotic from a balsam poplar at Patinalax, Limestone Road, and cried, Habeas magnifica, not noble fir? 9:15, imploring his recipiency, saw the infallible spike of smoke jut stiff punctual from the seventh gable of our Quintus Santimachus porphyroid butter tower and 10:30 p.m., with oaths upon his lastingness, a stout poor porterall, the lamps of maintenance, beacons far afield, innerhalb the cigarette, all brevet named, the wasting wyvern, the tawny of his mane, the swing-low swaying blue paw roars, the outstanding man, the loll-like lady, being litten for the long, O Lord, how long, life's night, a suffusion of fine glass transom and lead-light panes. En caecos arauspices, annos longos patimur. Wherefore, let it hardly by any being thinking be said either or thought, that the prisoner of that sacred edifice, were he an Ivor the Boneless or an Olaf the Wide, was at his best a one-stone parable, a rude breathing on the void of to be, a venter hearing his own Bauch-speech in backwards, or, more strictly, but thrice-turned initials, the clue key to a world-room beyond the room-world. For scarce one, or pathetically few, of his dodecanal salmon livers cared seriously or for long to doubt with Kurt Wald van Dyke, the gravitational pull perceived by certain fixed residents, and the capture of uncertain comets chance drifting through our system, suggesting an authenticatum of his alicitudinous, the canonicity of his existence as a tesseract. Dispersal women wondered. Was she fast? Do tell us all about. As we want to hear all about. So tell us all about her. Finnegan here and Funnegan there. Or whether she looked a loddy like Gussie's. And whether the why he had his wind-up, like them's. Shot? Notes and queries, tidbits and answers, the laugh and the shout, the arts and downs. Now listen to one another, and list them down and smoothen out your leaves of rose. The war is over. Whim, 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 whim. Was it Unity Moore or Estella Swift or Verena Fay or Quarter Quidam? Thomas, Markham for your uncle. PGs, hold up met your leg. Who, for the second time asking, was then the scourge of the parts about Falkridge localisod, it was wont to be asked, as, in ages behind of the Homo capite erectus, what price Peabody's money, or, to put it bluntly, whence is the Harrington's white cravat, as in epochs more Cainozoic, who struck Buckley, though nowadays, as then times, every school filly of 70 moons or more, who knows her etymologies, and every colleen ball a roof, and every red flannel waving war wife and widow piece upon Dublin wall forever knows, as yayas, how it was Buckley's self. We need no blooding paper to tell it neither, who struck and the Russian generals, da, instead of Buckley, who was caddishly struck by him when by herself. What full pride poison in the spy of 3 castles, or which hate-filled smiley cellar? And that such a vitriol of venom, that Queen's head affranchissant, acquired stinking plaster zeal could cover, pre-posted or post-paid. The lounge lizards of the pump room had their 9 days' jeer, and the pratch cats at their pledge pails too, and Holland Poland on beside. Spaspas spismas, the Janie Jonies, when, still believing in her owen glass when Isa's were twinklins, that the upper reaches of her mouthless face and her impermanent waves were the better half of her, one nearer him, dearer than all, first warming creature of his early morn, bondwoman of the man of the house, and murmur of all the Mackerwicks, she who had given his eye for her bed and a tooth for a child, till 1 and 110 and 100 again, O me and O ye, cadded and prim, the hung grey and green. And if she's older now than her teeth, she has hair that is younger than thine, my dear. She who shuttered him after his fall, and waked him widowed sparing, and gave him keen, and made him able, and held other zillers to each arch of his nose. She who will not rust her from her running, to seek him till, with the kelp of the oceanic, some such times that she shall have been after hiding the crumb ends of his enormousness in the Are-you looking for pearl far sea. Uriah, stood forth, Burrus burn, the gory all Dan world, in Gogo's name, for Gaga's sake, dragging the countryside in her train, with her Louise Queen's brogues and her Culander bustle, and her little bolero, boa and all, and 2 times 20 curly corms for her hairdress, specks on her aïeux, and spuds in oreilles, and a circus fix riding her Parisiennes cockneys, avaunt her straddle from Equerry Egan, when tink-tink in the church close clinked Steplower Jessima Sunday, Sola, with pawns, prelates and pukas, pelotting in her piece bag, for handyman the chomp, esquiro, bisque-basque, to crush the slander's head. Weary weeny white, plead for more and more. Notre Dame de la Vie, mercy of thy barmheartsy heat. O Grodniks beyond her better tay, ward of the druggist. Balk him no balkis. Be still, O quick, speak him, dumb. Hush, ye fronds of Alma, stimm unto Stein, and let him rest, thou wayfarer, and take no grave spoil from him, neither mar his mound. The bane of Tut is on it. Where? But there's a little lady waiting, and her name is A.L.P. And you'll agree, she must be she, for her holden hair heaps hanging down her back. He spent his strength amok harem-scarums, Poppy, Naranci, Jalla, Clora, Marinka, Aniline, Parm. And ilka those dames had her rainbow humours yet, for Wilco her whims, but he coined a cure. Tiff-tiff to gay, kissy-kissy to nay, and age-long pine to Morana. Then who, but crippled with children, would speak up for dropping with sweat? Sold him her lease of 9990, dresses, undresses, so die dainty. Goo the Groot gudgeon gulfed it all. Who was the C.O.D.? Bung! At Island Bridge she met her tide. At-a-bom, at-a-bom, at-a-bom-bom boom. The Finn had a flux and his ever a ride. At-a-bom, at-a-bom, at-a-bom-bom boom. We're all up to the years in hues and cribbies. That's what she's done for we. Whoa! Nomad may roam with Nabuch, but let nae man laugh at Jordan. For we have taken our sheet upon her stones, where we have hanged our hearts in her trees. And we list, as she bibs us, by the waters of Babylon.